Good morning. It is Sunday, May 25th, the 126th day of Donald Trump's second term, and a crucial moment in his testing of a precious American institution. When we talk about the rule of law, we imagine it as a constant, something that stands above partisanship, above politics, and beyond the nefarious influence of any one individual. We think of it perhaps, or at least we used to think of it, as the invisible infrastructure that keeps our complex system of democracy in check. But today, that foundational view of the role of the courts is under direct assault from the chief executive of the United States. On his first day back in office, Donald Trump pardoned or commuted the sentences of more than 1,500 January 6th rioters. Soon after, he fired prosecutors who, as part of their jobs, moved to hold him accountable for his role in the violent attempt to overturn the 2020 election, the one in which those now pardoned rioters had been involved. And now Trump and his administration have launched its most aggressive escalation yet, a targeted campaign against the very people who safeguard our legal system, judges and lawyers. This is no longer just about lashing out at college protesters or heckling critics on social media. This is a war on the rule of law itself. Trump officials have openly attacked federal judges who ruled against him, calling for their impeachment and introducing legislation to strip lower court judges of the power to issue nationwide injunctions, and in doing so, subjecting these judges and their families to a wave of threats and intimidation from Trump's MAGA base. It's not just rhetoric. These are strategic moves designed to discredit and erode public trust in the judiciary. The administration crossed from words to action when FBI agents arrested the Wisconsin state judge Hannah Duggan at her own courthouse in Milwaukee for allegedly allowing an undocumented immigrant who was in her courtroom on misdemeanor charges to exit the court through a jury door instead of the main entrance. The Trump administration says she was trying to help the man evade federal immigration agents. Judge Duggan said she was trying to preserve order in her courtroom, but for that, she is now treated as a felon. Paraded out in a public perp walk, her mugshot released to the press. A statement on behalf of Judge Duggan notes that she will defend herself vigorously and looks forward to being exonerated. What the nation witnessed was a chilling message to every judge in America. Cross us, and you're next. My next guest, Judge Michael Luttig, a lifelong conservative and a former federal judge, has been warning his party for years to take that MAGA threat seriously, and he's issued a grave warning about this particular moment, writing, quote, "The arrest and prosecution of judges on such specious charges is where the rule of law ends and tyranny begins. The independent judiciary is the only constraint of law on a president. It is the last obstacle to a president with designs on tyrannical rule. It is now entirely foreseeable that arrests of judges will occur in the federal courts across the country as well. It's impossible to imagine that the federal government could ever prove the charges against Judge Duggan, but that was not the point of the FBI's arrest," end quote. The point of the FBI's arrest was the spectacle of a sitting judge arrested for the cameras. Trump is waging war on the rule of law openly, aggressively, and with help. This week, House Republicans tucked a provision into their massive tax and spending cut bill that would make it harder for judges to hold officials, including Trump and his allies, in contempt of court. This is not some minor procedural tweak. It's a direct attempt to strip courts of their power to enforce their orders. Let's be clear on what this provision that Republicans just casually slipped in does. It says if a judge did not require a bond, kind of a legal placeholder, when issuing a temporary injunction, then the judge cannot enforce a contempt order, which means that if the Trump administration defies a court order and the judge in that court order didn't ask for a bond up front, there may be no consequence. It's a sly loophole, cutting the judiciary's legs out from under it. Of course, it's retroactive, applying even to ongoing cases, including those where Trump officials are already facing contempt charges for defying the deportation rulings against them. Let me say that again. The Republican-controlled Congress is writing laws that could shield Donald Trump and his allies from accountability when and if they ignore the courts. What the Supreme Court did last year when it declared in a controversial ruling that Trump is immune from so-called official acts, the GOP is now carrying forward in this so-called budget reconciliation bill. Trump's defense, by the way, whenever he's called out for extreme or unlawful actions is always the same. He has a mandate from the voters, and Republican lawmakers have repeated that claim again and again for actions that were never presented to the voters and actually enjoy very little public support. Recent polling shows that most Americans, including many of his own voters, disapprove of his deportation dragnet, disapprove of the sweeping tariffs and the defiance of court orders. There is no mandate for any of this. So why do they keep saying it? Because the claim of a mandate serves a crucial purpose. It's an all-purpose shield, a justification for extreme anti-democratic behavior. The term mandate is being weaponized by the Trump administration and his supporters to justify power grabs and to escalate attacks on institutions that stand in Trump's way, especially the courts, which is why you're going to keep hearing it over and over again for the next 4 years. You and I are living through a pivotal moment in our nation's history. No previous generation of Americans has faced a president so determined to shatter democratic norms and radically reshape the nation's legal and democratic fabric. It's one thing to threaten protesters or to mock critics. It's another to arrest judges, to bankrupt universities, to intimidate law firms that refuse to fall in line. And that is the territory we have now entered. Anyone watching this moment, the forced perp walk of a sitting judge, the direct threats to an entire branch of government, to independent universities, and to law firms, to anyone who can look at all of this and still claim with a straight face that we haven't crossed the Rubicon, well, that is dangerously naive, and at worst, it's complicit. As the friend of the show, Dean Obeidallah, put it, this is beyond not normal. This is a test of whether the rule of law still stands, because the judiciary is the final institutional safeguard in our constitutional system. When a president moves to erase that line, we are no longer dealing with policy disagreements or partisan squabbles. This is about whether we remain a nation of laws. When judges can be ignored, arrested, or punished for doing their jobs, no one is safe. Not lawmakers, not lawyers, not you, and not me. And what comes next in a country where the legal system has been neutered, where public officials no longer fear the courts? What remains is a rubber stamp. And with it, we leave behind Western liberal democracy and step into the world of dictatorships. Think Hungary, Russia, Turkey, Iran. How'd we get here? Well, when historians look back, they may not start with Trump. They may point instead to the Supreme Court justices who handed him the crown. It was their ruling last year that gave Trump what one dissenting justice called a loaded weapon, granting him and future presidents sweeping immunity for so-called official acts, a direct blow to the rule of law and an open door to authoritarianism.